I have not done a video in quite some time, over a month. I've been home for the summer and I've been really lazy and busy and it's just a whole bunch of excuses, but I'm really far behind. So this is actually my review of Gone Girl, which Tegan posted hers weeks ago. So if you haven't watched hers yet, you should go check that out. Okay, so I want to keep this video somewhat short, so I'm going to jump straight into the synopsis really fast. Our two main characters, Nick and Amy, and the book starts out with them celebrating their 5-year wedding anniversary when Amy mysteriously disappears in what seems like a violent struggle with overturned chairs and tables and whatnot. Of course, the police's first suspect is Nick, her husband. That's who almost everyone suspects first. And Nick, being Nick, looks extremely guilty the whole time. He does all the wrong things. He smiles at cameras when his wife is missing and he should be crying. We find out some stuff about him that makes him look extremely guilty. All the while we have two narrators kind of going on. We have Nick narrating, so we get a constant stream of his thoughts that go along with the action, and then we also have diary entries from Amy that paint a separate picture. So it's kind of like Amy's diary entries start when they meet, when Nick and Amy meet back in New York City, all the way to when she disappears on their 5-year anniversary, a small town in Missouri. So we have those two narrators going back and forth, and so throughout the book we find out what happens to Amy, and I'm trying really hard not to give any spoilers in this, so I'm not going to tell you anything more when it comes to the synopsis. Just that this book is a New York Times bestseller is what it's advertised as, and it actually has a movie that they made in 2013 that starred Ben Affleck, so if you've seen the movie then you kind of know what the book is about. But it's supposed to be really mysterious and unpredictable and insane twists and turns, so we'll talk about how I felt about that. So I'll start with plot, since we were just talking about the synopsis. I gave the plot a 4 out of 5. And I gave it a 4 out of 5 because I liked the idea of it. I thought it was a really interesting concept of, Amy going missing, and the way that Gillian Flynn constructed the book was really interesting, the way that the plot flows, and then it does have a lot of different twists and turns that you don't really expect. I mean, it depends. Some people expected it and some people didn't. I would say that I kind of had an inkling about what was happening, but not to the extent of what actually happened. That's as most as I'm gonna say. So I gave it a 4 out of 5 because I thought the idea of the plot was actually really well thought out and well constructed, and I thought it was a great idea. On the other hand, for character development, I gave it a 3 out of 5. I thought it was a solid go at these characters. They were pretty distinct. I mean, these were characters that I don't think has ever been described before, and they're pretty loathsome characters, and I think that's what she was going for, what Gillian Flynn was going for with her characters. I don't think you were supposed to like either of them. Both characters were just not anything that you could connect to because both are kind of crazy in a way. So you don't really connect to either one. The supporting characters, on the other hand, I liked Go, who is Nick's sister. I thought she was a really interesting character. I thought that she was one of the only redeeming characters in the book. So I gave it a 3 out of 5. It was a solid go at it. For cover, I gave it a 2 out of 5. I don't have the book with me because I left it in California, but I will post a picture of it in the middle of the video right now. So that's the cover. It's kind of boring. I mean, it's just black with some white swirls on it. It's not very interesting. It's not very eye-catching. So I gave it a 2 out of 5. It's not something that I would have picked up if it hadn't been made into a movie or someone hadn't told me about it or suggested that I read it, which was Tegan. So I don't think that the cover there wasn't much thought put into the cover. For readability, I gave it a 4 out of 5 because I felt like it was really easy to read through. There wasn't anything that hindered it. There was no hard language or confusing pieces of it. I gave it a 3 out of 5 for writing style. The beginning of the book, I really liked the way it was going. I liked the plot and how it was developing. I liked the introduction and description of how bad the characters are and how different they could be. And I really liked the way she was writing, because the way that she writes this book is very different. It's hard to explain the writing style. It's just not the same as you're used to. It's definitely different. And I enjoyed it for the first half. The middle half for me really started to drag. It became kind of just predictable and not as interesting as when the story first started and I was getting into it. So I gave it a 3 out of 5 because I did enjoy the writing style more than I thought I would with how different it was. Last category is enjoyment, which I gave it a 3 out of 5 for enjoyment as well. I didn't necessarily enjoy it the whole time, but I didn't hate it. So I had to give it a 3 out of 5 because that's middle ground. I mean, I can't always fully express my feelings for this book because it's not like, oh my gosh, I love this book, or oh my gosh, I hated this book. It was just kind of like, it had good parts and bad parts, but it wasn't like I would recommend it, everyone read it right now, right away. Or I would say anybody to never read it. So it was in the middle ground for me. So I think the obvious score for the total is 3 out of 5. I didn't actually add it all up. I just kind of assumed it would come out to 3 out of 5, which is just the average ground. Like I said, I didn't totally hate this book, like Tegan said, but I didn't love it either. So it had some problems, some things I didn't like, but it also had some stuff I did like. So if you're interested in twists and turns and mystery, I would recommend you read it anyway. May as well try it. There's no harm in that. And if you're not interested in that and you don't like books that confuse you and make you think you're wrong and are kind of a weird writing style and you can't relate to the characters, then maybe you shouldn't read it because it would be a waste of time. So honestly, that part's up to you. This is one of those books where I can't say I recommend it or I don't recommend it. I would recommend it to certain people and I would not recommend it to certain other people. So the next review that I'm going to post up is going to be on Wuthering Heights. I will keep you posted on when I'll get that up. It'll hopefully be within a day or two right after I post this one because like I said, I'm behind and Tegan and I are now reading A Discovery of Witches. So in the course of it, this is The Gone Girl, which Tegan and I reviewed together, and then we read 2 separate books. She read Pride and Prejudice, which she's already posted, and I read Wuthering Heights, which I have not. And right now we're reading A Discovery of Witches, which we plan on finishing as soon as possible and posting those videos. So that's a timeline of our events. So, as usual, subscribe to our channel, leave us comments, leave us suggestions, follow our Instagram. All right, bye.